Let's call the Order City of Port Richey City Council meeting Tuesday, February 27th, 2024. I'd like to invite Servant Leonard Fields for invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Father God, we just come to you. In James 1:5, you ask us to ask for wisdom. So I'm asking for wisdom with the board members, the counselor, and the people here for what is good and noble, right, and just, and honorable. You know, and it does say to pray for all those in authority. And I thank you that I get to pray with them and pray for them and others too. Lord, they got a lot of decisions to make. So, Lord, just help them make the right decisions best for all people and for the city. And sometimes we don't always agree on things, but one thing at the end of the day, we could continue to just work together as a team and just stand for what is right, noble, and honorable, and just. And so I thank you for the new people that are on board, like David and Cherokee, and I just ask you to bless them and their family as well, and all those here and all those behind us. And thank you, Father, in Jesus' name, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, you take roll, please.
Mayor John Eric Hoover.
Here.
Vice Mayor Linda Rodriguez.
Here.
Councilman Tom Kinsella.
Here.
Councilman David Mueller.
Here.
Councilwoman Cherokee Sampson. Here. City Attorney Nancy Meyer.
Here.
City Manager Matthew Poplar.
Here. Thank you. First off is approved council minutes. We have the February 6th City Council workshop minutes for motion.
Motion to approve the workshop minutes from the 6th of February.
Second. Motion second for discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next up, comments from the general public. I have 3 sign-ups. We'll start with Herschel Lang. Welcome.
Thank you, Councilman, Mr. Mayor, and prospective departments heads. My name is Herschel Lane, Reverend Herschel Lane. I'm an associate pastor at Union Missionary Baptist Church on Pine Hill Road. And we're the oldest church in this side of West Pasco County. And so we like to think that we're a trifold. We're part of Port Richey, we're part of Pasco County, and we're part of Newport Richey. So I'm here tonight speaking on behalf for my ministry. I am the pastor of evangelism. So I'm here tonight. I filed an application to use the waterfront park in August 10th of 2024. And the idea of this ministry is that we have about 100 bags to give away for back to school. We like to go upward of 200-300, but we're here tonight with the plea that our application will be approved, and we're here tonight also pleading to you that there's someone within our city government will make a donation. And what we're trying to do, we're trying to reach our community. This is a community thing. We're going to buy all the food. We're going to invite everybody that we can in Port Richey. I came to Port Richey about 36 years ago. And I was a young kid living on Ledgestone Lane. And so I was in my 30s. And every time I left my home, the old guys would watch me. So I brought youth to them. So I want to come back to my favorite spot and not only spread the gospel, but spread hands over a troubled time that we're living in. So I plead tonight that you all will grant us this and also be part of it. And upcoming in May of this year, we're going to have a prayer break. I haven't got the location yet. But we want to invite all our city leaders, our county leaders, and also our Newport Richey leaders to come in and break bread with us so that we can start praying for you. Know that we are praying for you all each day. And so we just want you to know that and come in and break some bread with us. We do that quite a bit. I'm a Pasco County Fire Rescue Chaplain. And so in the ministry, we like to eat. And so we want you all to eat with us. Thank you for your time. And we respect and we gratefully appreciate what you do in the service that you do for our community. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. We appreciate you as well. Next up, Danny Fields. Welcome.
Danny Fields and little kid there, 8114. I actually know Herschel, so me and him are both ministers. We minister together, and so he's been with Somebody Cares and stuff like that, and we're uniting together. There's only 3 churches around here in Port Richey for the city, so he's one of them, Light of the World, and another Baptist church over here. So we're planning on trying to network together as much as we can, but also support one another in each other's ministry to reach out, like Herschel said. So we do got a permit already that was given for us on March the 30th to do an event Easter in the park, and then we got one also scheduled for the backpack giveaway too, as well as we'll do that. So you guys has got the counter, but I get with him and he could do something in between these things and invite others to do the same thing, or we could partner together, but I'll leave that up to him to choose. So first, I just want to thank you for your services. I know this sometimes could be with decisions. I do like the stuff you got out there with the signs with the house and developments and stuff like that. So that's getting good input to see how we could work together and grow and work together. And, you know, the police and the fire department, you know, everything has to also be put on them because they navigate around to work on stuff like that. And the more you guys get out in these parks when we do our 5 events, that's a good time to get feedback. We know it's hard to get a lot of people to come in here, but I'm starting to work on that with people around. Herschel will be one of them I'll be talking with. We're doing the 40 Days of Prayer at the Oasis, so you're welcome to come to that. We do pray for the churches, we pray for family, and we pray for government, and we move on down the line, and we network out into the communities to give back and to partner with homeless, redevelopment, issues that you guys deal with on a daily basis here, those that work in all the departments, and then when we have these meetings to make decisions on that. So I want to thank you, and I want to encourage you. So Oasis at 6 o'clock every Wednesday at 9213 Little Road. So you're welcome to come to that. You're welcome to come to the events. So I ain't going to name names, but I've seen some of you there, and it was an honor to have you there, and you could get good feedback, and it would encourage you, and it will strengthen you, and it will give you a chance to hear from people that you wouldn't hear from that wouldn't come in here. So thank you. Bless you in Jesus' name.
Thank you. Next up, I have Chris Mayer. Welcome.
Good evening, Council and Mayor. I got to tell you, I attend city council meetings in multiple states and areas.
Address.
Oh, okay. Name and address. I apologize.
What's that?
State your name and address for the record.
Forgive me. Chris Mayer, 5342 Blue Point Drive, Port Richey. I've attended meetings in multiple states and cities, and when you all open up with prayer, that means something. You know, when you got pastors coming in here and they're saying, hey, we're interested in spreading the gospel, the good news of Jesus Christ in your neighborhood, when you want to solve problems, that's where it starts. And we can have wise people, we can have money and funding, all that stuff, but until we get people's hearts straight, we're not going to get straight. So I'm thankful that folks are here like the 2 pastors that are here. I want to say, first off, thank you for addressing the issue on Blue Point Drive. It was quickly and swiftly taken care of once we went to vote. Darrell Rose, who's a new hire for the city, I mean, he was representing you guys well out there. He really was. He worked hard. He got down in the dirt with the folks. He showed the people how to, do the concrete. He physically helped get that done from start to finish. And I got to tell you, whoever hired that guy made a good pick. Thank you for what you're doing. That's all I wanted to do is come and encourage you. All right? Thanks.
That's all the sign-ups I have. Anybody show of hands would like to speak? See no hands. I'll move on. Next up is comments from the city manager. I'll pass it to Mr. Coppola for his comments.
Thank you and good evening, everyone. Had a few things for you. First off, on March 5th, 2024 at 9:30 a.m., the council is scheduled to meet with the Pasco Board of County Commissioners as well as Newport Richey City Council as part of the joint West Pasco Cities Workshop. The meeting will take place in the Pasco County Community Development Conference Room at 8610 Galen Wilson Boulevard. This will be an opportunity to discuss with both the County Commission and Newport Richey City Council items of mutual interest to see if there are any ways that they can work together. They have asked, and we have until the 28th to submit topics for discussion to the county for that meeting. I've received two thus far from council members. One regarding the golf cart crossing here within the city. The other is the property that the county owns on Limestone Drive. Close there, can't remember what the address is, but and what their plans are for that long term. If you have anything else, we have until tomorrow at 3 o'clock to submit that to them. So please get that to me, give it to me tonight, or let me know tomorrow. Last week, Public Works removed the island in the center of the circle of Blue Point Drive, as well as repaired the drain structure. It was failing on that street. I've included pictures within my report that shows the end result. If you haven't had a chance to go out there and see that, it would have. There's another issue at the corner regarding a catch basin that drains very slowly and results in ponding. That we're still looking at to see what in total it's going to take, but it most likely is going to result in the installation of a new catch basin and storm line. We hope to get that tackled sometime in the near future to address that problem. Additionally, Public Works continue to work on Olsner Park. Besides refreshing the landscape, crews installed 4.5 tons of new sand at the beach to improve the visitor experience at the park. And again, I included a couple pictures there in my report that demonstrates what they've done. I didn't put the before and after, but trust me, it's a big difference now. Grant coordinator Pamela Lynch is finalizing a grant application for the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission's Florida Boating Improvement Program to fund the improvements to Nick's Park Boat Ramp. And you might remember that we've submitted already a grant for that $650,000 project. What we found out is through this program, we can get up to half of the cost, which we then be able to use that for the other 50% match in the first grant that we applied for. So if we were able to get both grants, we could get the whole project paid for through state funding. Again, nothing's for sure, but it's just an opportunity that Pam, Ms. Lynch found, and we wanted to take advantage of, and I wanted you to be aware of that. The last thing I have is just a reminder, we'll be having our second goal setting session next Tuesday at 6 p.m. So be prepared to come with a lot of good ideas.
Thanks, Matt.
Are we allowed to ask questions?
I want to come around. As a matter of fact, I go.
To Matt on the things he spoke.
Yep, I'm going to go ahead and turn over to comments from Mayor and City Council, and I'll start with Councilman Wheeler.
Real quick, I noticed that you had mentioned something about this 50% match. The item 11, is that related to
Yes.
that? Because it was 15% in that. I don't know if there's a disconnect.
Now, my what I was told is 50%.
When we get to it, let's look at that, because that's a big number difference if we're talking that. Back to the drain, the catch basin on Blue Point Drive. I had an opportunity to inspect that myself because it's across the street from my house and right along there. It appears this was one of the issues that Duke Energy's contractor drilled through our drain. Okay. At one point in time, I believe there was a list that was being prepared of all of those instances where they were going to try to throw those at Duke all in one fashion. maybe we need to find out where that is, and potentially, rather than wait till the last minute, maybe we can start implementing some of these things now and getting them fixed. I believe some of them were sidewalks getting cracked or whatever it was. But I believe that Sal was keeping a list of those, and it would behoove us to get on it sooner than later. Let's start with Oldsner. Actually went out there and reviewed that today. The beach looks great. I talked to two couples, one from Michigan, the other one from Canada, and they said they're really happy with the improvements at the park. However, I did note that I think we have a little more work to do there. With the gazebo, there's missing railing and things like that. It's not very much, but the point is let's carry that to completion. Also, I noted that the gym set removed or parts of it removed.
There may have been. I'm not sure.
Okay, I don't know if there was an attempt to try to get that back up or so wherever that stands. Let's see. That's Oldsner, Brasher. I know that we've got the restrooms closed, waiting for engineer to evaluate the structure, so that's in process. But I also noticed that the playground equipment was closed for some reason. Had yellow crime scene tape all around it. I don't know what's going on there. As well as there's 4 dead bushes right on the front of the sign there. Maybe we ought to look at put some drought tolerant structure there, since there's shrubs there, so since there isn't a watering system potentially. Waterfront Park, the potential is we have a dog park on the north, or actually the east north side of that park. Potentially 2 of the fences could be moved in a manner that would enlarge that park. I've heard a lot of people say, hey, we wish it was a little larger, and if we move those 2 fences and just take the existing fence there and swing it to the north, and the one that's on the north swing it, or the one that's on the north side, and pivot and swing it to the west, it would about double that area. And we have the perimeter fence that would act as a backdrop on that. So it's something that it wouldn't take a lot of money, but it would certainly enhance the use of that park and create that. It's all dead space there behind it. So it's something that maybe we can get a big win out of that quickly. Also, at one point in time, I brought up benches that were removed along the back or the western side of the swale, top of that, over the bridge around that area. We were looking at potentially getting those benches back in. I've heard people said, would really like those benches because people like to watch the sunset there. This is the time of year that it's nice to go out and the bugs aren't too bad. Waterfront Park. Speaking of FDOT, is there a way that we can get the bridge pressure washed and get the mildew removed from that goes over 19, and potentially look to see if they can light that bridge from underneath, like they do in Tampa and the Skyway and things like that. I mean, this is something, I think even Newport Richey has a lighting on the bridge. So that might be a future project, but it's something that would really make a statement in our community. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Councilman Casella, let's go next.
Thank you for a couple of the items that I had. I'm very pleased to hear about Blue Point. I'm glad that was finally taken care of, and I appreciate it. That's all I had.
I'll swing it over to Councilwoman Sampson. Vice Mayor Rodriguez.
I think the bridge on Thank you. the bridge on 19 doesn't belong to us.
Well,
That's
why-
a state thing even underneath, so I don't know if where we would be able to light or do anything to that.
Well, and that's why I suggested let's contact FDOT. I got a contact that I've already sent over. Potentially,
That should go through our city manager, not through us individually.
understand that. I sent him the contact.
Oh,
I'm not following up.
okay. Okay, good.
Just to be clear,
Thank you. That's all I had to say, was just that I think that bridge is state.
I know it is, but
I've got a few things here. Let's see what order I want to do. Let's start with each one. Just a reminder that the Port Richey Chamber of Commerce is grand opening is this Friday, March 1st at 4:30, 2 hours, right? 4:30 to 6:30, I believe. So encourage public to go out and check that. It's 8136 Washington. Again, March 1st, this Friday, 4:30. The next thing I wanted to bring up is our March town hall. It's time for the town hall again. So we need to set that date for that. I kind of looked, I know we've got some meetings coming up and we've got the planning session. So I was kind of thinking maybe around that week of the 18th. 18th is a Monday. We could have it that Tuesday the 19th. Would be a suggestion.
I'm cool with that. Tuesdays are good for me.
Tuesday good. You guys good with 19th? Okay. All right, we'll set that for the 19th then.
Is the city hall calendar good for that?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think last time they put out a thing on the website to kind of try to get as much public here as we can.
6 p.m.
At 6 p.m. Yeah. 6 to 8. Okay. One of the things I want to see about potentially talking about, and this kind of goes along with codes, is the golf. What roads we have allow golf carts on in the city? I know Washington is excluded. I think there's actually some issues with what we have in the code and what's on the I guess the rules and on the website. I hadn't had a chance to go back and compare that, but I've heard there's some inconsistencies on where you can drive the golf cart and where you can't. So I want to see if there's possibly a way we can revisit that and see if maybe we could open that up more and allow them on Washington. Again, I don't know. I think is Washington 30 miles an hour, Chief?
Yes.
Are you guys aware of why that was excluded in the past? So I'd like to look at all the roads again to see if we can open that up into more spaces to allow people to have golf carts around, especially as we look at on the agenda tonight, open up Grand Boulevard. It'd be nice to have some more.
Quick question on that. Once we do this, would it behoove us to put a map together relative to all of the streets where they're allowed, so that the individual that has a golf cart and gets his golf cart his or her golf cart certified, place that in their hands so they know what the rules of the road are, this road or that road.
Do we have any kind of pamphlet or anything that we hand out?
There is a pamphlet online, and so I was going to look to see if they had a map on
It
it.
has a map. I'm not sure if it does or not, but yeah, that's a great idea. Absolutely.
It'd be a good idea to have that.
If you all agree, maybe talk about that. Take a look at that. Let's see. Next, along the same line as codes. I know we talked about this last meeting with the boat rentals and jet ski conversation. I'd actually brought that up originally when it was brought to me back October 24th. There was a citation for the jet ski rental place down the waterfront that they were to cease and desist. And then it was brought up again, the council meeting 11/14, November 14th, then again November 28th, and then just recently on February 13th. And at the last meeting, we decided to put that, definitely to go to planning and zoning. And so we were going to put that to them, the next agenda item. I was under the impression there was going to be one in February, and there's not. Matter of fact, there's not going to be another planning and zoning meeting until the end of March. March 28th, which is obviously a whole other month. So what I wanted to see, a brief conversation about is, and myself, Matt, and Nancy were talking about this before the meeting. Planning and zoning needs guidance on these codes. And we just recently, with the PUD for the RV park, we had that workshop. We kind of went through that. I think, and this is kind of my thought originally when I brought this up after I got elected, is is that we would have these workshops to kind of look at a couple codes. We would kind of talk about if there's anything we want to change. We just walk through it just like we did the PUD, and we could brainstorm and see, we want to change this, maybe this, and then send that to planning and zoning for them to review. That gives them some guidance to talk about, right? And they can make further suggestions and actually bring that back, as opposed to us pushing it down to planning and zoning with really no guidance at all, but other than look at the code. So I'd like to. I don't know if maybe next agenda we could put that on the agenda to talk about our code methodology and how we can better that process going forward, and get them some guidance. And again, it gives us a chance to kind of look at it. There's no reason for them to look at code if we look at it first and realize it's fine. We don't want to make any changes. No need to have them come and meet and talk about that, right? And if there is, we can use the example of the fence. So we want to change the gap on the fence. We talk about that. We make that recommendation. We send it down. They review it. They talk about it. Then it comes back to us as the first reading, or whatever. We can discuss it further and actually get something done on that. So are you guys amenable to having that on the agenda, just kind of see what our methodology is to take that? I want to define that process a little bit better. And as well, especially on this jet ski boat rental thing, I'd like to see if we can somehow get planning and zoning to call a special meeting at the beginning of the month to talk about that, or change the end of the month meeting to the first of the month. I don't want to wait till March 28th. Have them talk about that and then come back to us and be best case in April before we can even making changes. So if they can get that out there, like I said, I don't know why they didn't meet in February, but if we can move their meeting up to the beginning of March and maybe just make that the cadence going forward. I'm not sure how that works with schedule, but you guys could just look at that. Go ahead.
The March 28th meeting is a scheduled meeting that has to happen due to a rezoning. For those. So if they want to meet earlier or can meet earlier, that's an option. I can reach out to them based on their schedule.
Yeah,
So-
if we could just have a special meeting for them to review that particular one. If that's possible. If it's not, I'm just asking. It's a long time to wait to try to get that changed. Oh, there is a map. Looks like Dave. Okay, that's a pamphlet. Okay, and the map's in a pamphlet on the golf cars. Next, I got an example here. It's for proclamations. And I brought this up a while back. That the city needs some kind of proclamation, recognition program, something in place. And I give you an example here, and this is actually the second one I've received. This one is, Dear Mayor Hoover, the Florida Council on Compulsive Gambling, FCCG, respectfully requests a proclamation declaring Problem Gambling Awareness Month, PGAM, in your municipality. The National Council on Problem Gambling has been recognizing March as National Problem Gambling Awareness Month for over 20 years. And the FCCG is a state affiliate and only organization that furnishes problem gambling services and supports thousands of Floridians each year. The proclamation will help raise awareness about gambling disorder, classified by the American Psychiatric Association as a behavioral addiction, which impacts millions of Floridians who struggle directly with gambling-related difficulties or are adversely affected by a loved one's gambling problem. And of course, it goes on several things. They also give a sample whereas clauses to put in that. So what I'd like to ask by consensus, if we can have Matt go back and look and see if he can find some language from other municipalities. Most municipalities, including Newport Richey, our neighbor, has proclamations. We don't. I think it'd be a good thing to do to allow these entities to recognize certain months, days, weeks, whatever the case may be. There'll be a vetting process, obviously, behind that, and then it would come to council. We would agree to that and sign that and have that proclamation. And like I said, I'd also like to potentially open that up to certain recognitions. Now, so we don't want to recognize everybody's birthday, but monumental things like a 100th birthday or 90-year-old birthday or something like that for city residents. Anything we could do to it's relatively low cost, virtually free to provide recognition and stuff for residents is a good thing in my opinion. So is that something you guys are amenable to? Sure.
What does the proclamation do or enhance, or what is the benefit or disadvantage to that?
Just recognition, really. Do you have any experience on that?
Excuse me, there are a number of cities do like Domestic Violence Awareness Month. At some point at a meeting that month, they may put out a proclamation just recognizing the issue. And usually entities will send things like that and kind of give you some language to use. Of course, you don't have to do exactly what they send you, but it really is just a moment to recognize an issue or cause or something like that.
Kind of goes against the 6 gambling institutions we have in our little city.
That would be
And that's a big
that would be
bone of contention to a lot of residents, having all those gambling facilities in our city, and then we're saying this. It's kind of like
that's why
different ends of the spectrum.
if you were to have a program, it would need to be some kind of a policy. So city manager would know these are the things to look for, the criteria that you guys are interested in, and then bring those to you if you wanted to do something like that.
But they don't hold any legislative value.
No, it's just recognition.
So we can start proclamating everything.
If you chose, yeah. Does it mean you have to vote a certain way later? It's just a recognition of an issue.
I mean, there's lots of issues we can start. I mean, we could go down a rabbit hole here.
And that's why you have some kind of policy. That the easiest way to do it is to have a policy so everyone knows, particularly the city manager, and when you guys hand him the flyers that you receive from the various organizations, he would know the path you want to go on if you wanted to do something like that.
And actually, you'll kind of get a preview of something similar to the City of Fort Ritchie sponsorship policy that he's got on tonight's agenda to talk about accepting money for, like, the Boom on the Bayou, supporting that and other things that we put on. There's some language in there that, we can choose to accept a donation or not. So you'd have things like that to vet these things. So
I just think I think we're going to go down a rabbit hole if we start proclamating everything. I don't know. It just seems like we've got a lot of.
So we
very
proclamate
important-
nothing? Is that? I think that's an answer.
I hadn't thought about it before this very second, so you brought it up. So just thinking out loud, it's not, I don't see the benefit. It's a lot of. We have so many important things to talk about. Yes, that is important, but we don't have any action to take on that. By us saying it's a proclamation of gambling awareness, we're not doing anything. It's a piece of paper. That's why I said, what was the benefit? I mean, is something supporting that?
I believe,
I
believe the benefit is sort of like if you think about it like social media, right? So for instance, if someone posts for Suicide Awareness Week or for Veteran Awareness Month or for et cetera, it's not really saying, oh, you have to do exactly these things and blah, blah, blah. It's just saying, hey, this month is for recognizing that suicide is a very common and tragic problem in the United States, right? Or in this situation, gambling is an issue. I used to work in a casino. And
I'm not saying it's not an issue. I'm not saying any of these things are not an issue. I'm just saying, what are we doing as a city to stop that by saying, here's a piece of paper? It just seems like a lot of time on this is one proclamation. We set forth this one. There are a slew of proclamations that can come after this. We've got a lot of very important things to cover in this city that do have legislative and that absolutely affect our residents. So that's all I'm saying. It just seems we can go down a rabbit hole.
there will be a vetting process, right?
Right. That's all in the policy. Before let me pass over Matt real quick because you've done this in other. If you could give a little explanation.
Yeah, I think I agree with some of the comments you made that you need to be circumspect on what you're going to allow, because invariably there's going to be one that the majority of the members of council may not be supportive of, and it's better to have a policy that is more restrictive and very defined towards certain things. And for instance, where I was at in St. Clair Shores, they did proclamations and recognitions, but it was only for local groups. It was only for anniversaries. It was for birthdays. It was for a business that's been open for 50 years. They stayed away, and their policy at the time wasn't written. We did write it. Was to stay away from issues of national or state topics, because again, there's always within the residency in the city, there's different points of view, and they didn't want to enrage one group or the other because they represented everyone. And so they believe that it was good to recognize, someone that their 100th birthday or their 60th wedding anniversary or 45 years in business or anything like that, or they high school won a state championship, all those things. But they stayed away from, items like that because they felt that it really wasn't their place to try to make that awareness happen. Now, what happened, though, was some council members didn't really like that, and they wanted to recognize that. And so during their comments, our response to that was, well, during your comments, you're allowed to say anything. And that's kind of how they addressed it, is, just want to know that this is, whatever awareness month. And again, it's within your purview to say that. If, whether you support or don't support, that's yours. But as a body, they kept it only to certain things that really was just in the community and wouldn't inflame or incite the community one way or another. And I know that sounds bad, but it really, I think, was good. And as I look back through other communities where I was manager, the vast majority of councils went that way. And I don't think they had a reason for it, but it just was more of a natural thing that, if we're going to be talking about honoring people, let's honor our residences, our businesses, to make sure that everyone's aware of these great things that are going on within the community, and not get into the debates that are happening at state or national level that don't it impacts us, but we don't have an impact on.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I'm asking. Is to put some kind of policy together, because these things come in. I get them. The city probably gets them as well. I use this as an example just because it's the most recent one I got. Not that I'm saying that we would do this, but if we had a policy in place, they go to the website, they would submit it to that process. And if it would get through, if it was one of the things that we decided that as a council we do want to have proclamation for, it would come to us. And this particular one to say this wasn't part of the process, it wouldn't make it through. They'd come in and say they request it, it'd come back and they get an answer, say, sorry, we don't proclamate for gambling, or whatever, but there's a process out there that somebody can view, and they can, because right now we don't have anything, and so they ask, and it's bad PR in my mind for these places to reach out to us to do something as a city, and we don't act on it. So I think it behooves us to have a policy, even if it's very restrictive. At least we have some policy in place so we could actually do that. And I think there's some positives to it. So, do you have any comments on that?
No, I think that.
I like the idea of keeping it local. This is our community. Whatever happens within our city limits, I think would be pretty decent to recognize and honor.
Okay.
But on a greater scale, everybody else is doing it, and it's like, let's just keep it hometown.
Yeah. No, everybody does their flavor of it, right? So I want to create our flavor is kind of what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
If it's totally off the table, then it's totally off the table. I think something we could do good. It would be relatively,
No, I think it'll build community spirit and make a sense of belongingness to this community, which I think that it's a good thing.
So it sounds like we got consensus. So let you
More on a local level, I totally agree with.
put that together for us. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
The two more things. One, it's relatively quick, is we actually raised the millage rate to accommodate code enforcement. And I know that we were kind of all of the opinion that let Matt get in here and decide, do we need another code enforcement officer or not? I don't know if you're prepared to give us kind of an update on where you're at with that. Do you think we're good? Do you think are we looking at possibly hiring? I know there's I guess, concerns in the community about code enforcement. I just want to kind of air that out, that now that you've been here a few months, what your take is on, do we need another one or not?
But I don't know if I'm prepared tonight to give you a report on that, but I am prepared to say that you're getting a report soon.
Okay. Yeah. So we should be hearing some results from that. Good.
I got a question on that.
Sure.
Effectively, don't we have 3,000 code enforcement officers in this community?
No.
Potentially.
Potentially. Yeah. Any resident is able to go in and
Able to and will do, because I have a neighbor who had a complaint and constantly complained, but did not want to go onto the site and make the thing official. So that's why I said, no, we don't have 3,000, because some people don't want to put their name down for their next door neighbor or the person across the street because they don't want to cause, ill will towards that, even though they complain bitterly about it. So,
Well, even that's the initial notification period anyway. You still need a code enforcement person to act on that. So,
Of course. And from what I've seen reviewing the code enforcement, I see that they're doing a pretty effective job of what I'm seeing. So I think it's a good thing that we got the right person in the role.
cool. I just want an update on that, obviously, to see the community is interested in that as well. And then the final thing I have, I've also mentioned this before, in the spirit of getting the community more, I'd like to potentially look at Zoom meetings for the public, some of what was going on during COVID, with a caveat. Again, that'd be another policy we would need to put together. People could log in. They wouldn't just have free reign to raise their hand and speak. It would have to be submitted in advance to that. But I'd like to talk about possibly allowing that instead of just them watching, they could actually participate.
I've
against
been
it, or-
involved in Zoom meetings and not with potential 3,000 people, and those even limited attendees, it was quite difficult. So I don't know if that would be. I'd like to see other cities that do that, and if you can get me names of other cities, I'd like to absolutely see how those work before we go and do that.
And to comment on that, I think the larger you get, the more difficult it becomes. Obviously, we're small, so we could actually probably spearhead that and be an example. But again, there's some logistics that go along with it. It's something I think it's worth taking a look at. Again, we all want as much as public can come and come fill this room up and give comments. That's great. If we provide that online, it's another avenue. Maybe people are more comfortable with. They can actually submit in advance. Hey, I want to talk on topic number 2 tonight, and they submit their name and address, and they could comment from home. I just think it's we're in a day and age that's more and more acceptable. More and more companies, people work from home. There's really no reason that we're going to have to force people to come down to this room here. And obviously, to be blunt, if we did have that amount of participation, we couldn't hold them anyway because it's a relatively small venue. I'm sure if there was a topic that needed to be, it was a pretty hot topic, we could obviously fill this room and they'd be waiting out in the hallway, whatever. But if we were to have that,
That's happened.
yeah, I'm sure it has. So I think it's an option we could look at. What do you guys think?
I think we talked about this in the past, and I thought it was not possible. Is that correct? Did we talk about that with COVID? No, I guess they're looking at it like I'm crazy.
The only thing we've talked about in the past is the amount of members of council who could be in attendance.
Oh, okay, all right.
It's changed.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, one of my concerns is if we do this, we got to clean up the process, the Zoom itself. I mean, we have difficulties right here trying to listen to each other across this room, and if we move forward without correcting the issues that they have right now, I think you're going to have more frustrated citizens because they're going to say they submitted their questions and we didn't respond on it properly. And again, it's going to cause more hard feelings. So we really need to clean this here before we go further. So if we decide to do a Zoom, maybe it's a different program. I don't know, but it needs to be something where we could have that better communication and the citizens out there can actually hear what's being said.
Yeah, I will say that, and kind of a segue into this, my last comment obviously was going to be, we had to sound people out. You guys hear it pretty good out there now. I actually came in, we did a test, we did it on live. Actually, a couple people actually had popped up and they saw it going live and they saw us in here testing and it was much better. So they made several changes to the system. It sounds really good up here. Everybody, and we went around all the different mics and had them all on at once, turn them on as we need them. So I think we've made heads, and I mean we've huge difference in getting this sound system the way it needs to be, which was a big part of that. So also we'll know going forward. But I think as an extension of that, I just thought we could possibly look into maybe doing something a little more virtual as well. So we would be here, but just for the ancillary people that want to join, they'd have that opportunity to do it from home.
I've participated in some very large meetings with my company and my church. One of the things that would probably have to occur is there'd have to be another person besides our clerk, because she's busy taking notes. Somebody's going to have to moderate that meeting and facilitate open mic or however you're going to handle the call and response. So we'd have to think through that, but I think it's certainly doable, and it would be something you might want to ask the public if they'd be interested in participating in something like that. So maybe we get some kind of survey going to that effect.
Yeah. Maybe we bring it up at town hall, see if people show up for that. We'll see what they. That's all right.
So I think that it's a really cool idea. And I think that as a mom, I know how hard it is sometimes. If my husband wasn't home right now, I would have to be at home. And I know so many men and women all across our county. We have a lot of babies that have been born in this area. And so it might be really good for stay-at-home parents who are still interested in participating. But like David and you had said, that we'll have to get all of the nuances to it down to an art. I also have done massive Zoom meetings, and sometimes if you don't have the right person controlling the actual this side of it, you know, it can get a little hairy. So we should get together constituents and then also figure out how we're going to do it exactly.
And it's really, I mean, they have the ability to watch it live now. Do you see how many are watching live now? Do you have that metric on there? Just out of curiosity. I know that we normally get a couple hundred people watch the council meeting. 7? Okay. So really the only thing it would do, really the only thing to do is allow them to potentially comment. So I don't think it's really that monumental of a change, other than it just gives them the ability to actually comment. Would it increase that number? Maybe if they realize they can talk on the topic. So I don't know if it's going to be a huge problem like we can anticipate. But anyway, just something to think about. That's all. That being said, we'll move on to comments from boards and committees. Do we have any comments from boards and committees? No? Moving on to the consent agenda for motion.
Consent agenda.
Motion second. Further discussion?
Thank you.
Anyone from the public got comment? See no hands up put to vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next up is our council business. This is going to be, item 3 is a public hearing of revised Keys of Cody River plat. This is a quasi-judicial hearing. I'll pass it to Mr. Koppler for his introduction.
Do you have to call it into order? Or is that enough?
So the Keys at Cody River, previously named Cody River Townhomes, was initially planned in 2006 to be an individually owned townhomes. Over time, the site and layout has changed and became duplexes, all owned by a single owner. In 2023, a revised plat was submitted to the city to update the records with both the city and county and to reduce future confusion related to property line. So tonight, we have owners, developers of that, who will be presenting what exactly they're asking for as part of the plat. But before they do that, we have included in your packet, the top says Final Record Plat, Keys of Cody River, Development Services Department 2/12/2024. And there's a series of things that need to be addressed and answered in the affirmative for this to go forward. And our planning consultant, Tammy Verana, is here to go over that report that she submitted to us that lists each of the different items that council needs to take into consideration as part of this. And once she's completed, that'll be the staff's presentation, and they'll open it up to the developer for their comments and presentation.
I'll pass it to the city attorney to read the quasi-judicial procedures.
Okay, this is a quasi-judicial proceeding
the city council acts in a quasi-judicial rather than a legislative capacity. At a quasi-judicial hearing, it is not the function of council to make law, but rather to apply law that has already been established. In a quasi-judicial hearing, the council is required by law to make finding of fact based upon the evidence presented at the hearing and apply those finding of fact to the previously established criteria contained in the city's code of ordinances in order to make a legal decision regarding the application before it. Council may only consider evidence at the hearing that the law considers competent, substantial, and relevant to the issues. If competent, substantial, and relevant evidence at the hearing demonstrates the applicant has met the criteria established in the city's code of ordinances, then council is required by law to find in favor of the applicant. By the same token, if the competent, substantial, and relevant evidence at the hearing demonstrates the applicant has failed to meet the criteria established in the city's code of ordinances, then council is required by law to find against the applicant. At this time, I'll ask if any member of council has had any ex parte communications regarding this application with the applicant.
No.
Does any member of council have a conflict of interest with this application?
No.
Okay. At this point, anyone who plans to provide testimony needs to stand and face the city clerk. You will be sworn.
If you could raise your hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Okay, so open up to staff for their presentation.
Tammy Vrana, Vrana Consulting, 260 Tucker Street, Safety Harbor, Florida. I serve as the city's planning consultant. And I just wanted to say regarding those items in your packet that all relate to comprehensive plan and land development code topics. We reviewed all of those things in depth when we were overseeing the rezoning process. There were 19 criteria within your land development code that we provided detailed responses to in the staff report. When the plat came forward and I reviewed my portions relative to land use and zoning, and also the overall site plan and conditions of approval, the review of that final plat was satisfactory. So all the conditions that I looked at were met. That's all I have.
So, allow the applicant can question staff.
Carlos Yepes, 6654 78th Avenue, Pinellas Park, Florida. I'm the owner of the property, and we're here to basically clean up the prior lines and a lot of different things. We're just trying to clean it up in one lot. So we comply with all the requirements of the city, and we're here if you have any questions.
Okay, thanks. I'll open up to council can question staff. Any questions? And next to the process, applicant presents, but I assume that was good enough for that. Yep. And then we move on to staff can question the applicant. Is there any questions for the applicant, staff? And then council can question the applicant if they so desire. Any questions? And public comment. Is there any public comment? Anybody like to speak on this? With that, I'll open up the applicant to make a closing statement. Is there a closing statement? And staff can make a closing statement. Do you have a closing statement? Okay, so now I can open up council consideration of the application on a motion in a second.
And I will just, if I may jump in real quick, the report that was provided in your packet is part of the evidence of the facts that you need to determine if the criteria have been met. So that's kind of what our planner got up and mentioned. The review she did, this report captures that, and you can consider that.
Motion to approve the revised keys at Cody.
I second that. Motion second. Any further discussion? Option to comment again. Okay, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries, and that will conclude the hearing. Thank you. Next up, item number 4, first reading of ordinance number 24-696, amending section 127-58 of Article 3 of Chapter 127 of the City of Port Richey Code of Ordinances to allow for recreational vehicle parks in a planned unit development zoning district. It's come to my attention that there's an issue with this in some of our comprehensive land use plan. I'm going to pass that to Mr. Copper just for a brief explanation, and then
Yes.
we're looking forward to table this until next meeting.
Yeah, so I'm going to recommend that we table this. It was brought to my attention earlier this evening that there's potential conflict with our future land use in this. To be honest, I haven't had the chance, and the city attorney hasn't had a chance to review this to find out if there is or isn't a conflict. We'd much rather do our due diligence before you start voting, or we have a little bit of time to look into it so we can lay out if there is a broader process we need to go through to do that, because we don't want you to all be in favor of doing this and we come back and say, oh, remember that code that you adopted? Well, we have some work we have to do. So we like to be able to say this is what you need to do before we get into any more discussion.
Do it right the first time. Let's go.
Yeah.
Do it.
So I need a motion to table.
Motion to table the ordinance 24-696.
Motion seconded.
Motion second. Any further discussion on that? Can I open up public comment for that, or does anybody speak on this? Okay, we're going to table that. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. It's tabled. Item number 5, approval of resolution number 24-04, temporarily suspending the fee for yard sales on May 11th, 2024. I pass it to Mr. Copper for introduction.
Yes, as you may recall, the Citizen Advisory Council Committee, I have it wrong here, has scheduled a citywide yard sale to be held on Saturday, May 11th, 2024. As incentive for residents to participate, the CACC requests the City Council to waive the fee normally charged by the city for yard sales. The permit fee for yard sales is $2.
Motion to,
Well, I need to read by title. real
oh,
quick.
sorry.
Okay, resolution number 24-04, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Port Richey, Florida, temporarily suspending the fee imposed in section 127-92 little I of Article 4 of Chapter 127 of the City of Port Richey Code of Ordinances and providing for an effective date.
Now,
Yes. Thank you.
motion to approve resolution number 24-04.
Second.
A motion second for discussion. Any more public like to speak? I have one signed up, Pat Rogers. Welcome.
Pat Rogers, 4838 Sunset Boulevard. I just have a question on this. There used to be a limit to how many yard sales a person could have at their home, and I wondered if there still was one. I just hadn't heard.
Still in the code.
I believe there is.
Yeah, we didn't change anything. We're just, for that one day, just getting rid of the fee. Everything else is the same, I think.
Anyone else like to speak?
Well, I do have a question on that. I mean, if we're limit the residents on how many would this, by doing this, would that count as one of their, or their only one that they're allowed to have?
Yeah. But I think
you're allowed.
it's like 2 a quarter or 2 a year, or I can't remember
Trying to find it.
offhand what it is.
So this is for the community.
Honestly, I was almost going to put that in the cover letter, but I said, nah, that's not necessary. Now I
So
wish
this
I
would
did.
count against there too,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
Is it?
I
We-
found it. So no, I'm a speaker.
You
here. So no more than one yard sale permit yard sale permit shall be issued to any permittee to conduct a yard sale at any site within this city during any 4-month duration, and not more than one yard sale, oh my goodness, shall be conducted at the same site within the city during any such 4-month duration.
So it's 3. That'd be 3 a year. So this counting is one they could do 2.
Yep.
Yeah, the other question I have, in the spirit of bringing our community together in something like this, is this something we want to try to do, and maybe have something to state the fact that the community or citywide yard sale will be exempt from this from now on going forward annually, one annually.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you guys want, we could make that change to state in there it doesn't count against your allotment. Is that
Well, I'm suggesting that the city sponsor one yard sale.
Like do one annually.
Yeah.
Oh,
You know,
Yeah.
like Longleaf does one every year, or the different
Right.
communities
And then we
do one
don't
every
have
year.
to keep coming back to this year after year to waive the $2 fee. So if people want to save up all their stuff for 1 year,
Do it on that one
shot,
set date.
then they save $2, right?
I don't think the I'm not going to speak for the entire CAC, but I think that would probably be something that they would agree upon. I can certainly bring it back at the next meeting. But I don't see why they would have a problem with that.
this is we've got one scheduled, right? That's what this one's for.
The first Thursday. Yes, we have May 11th.
So I'd make a suggestion.
But this one's scheduled, but
Right.
in
No,
the
he's
future,
saying for next
we
in,
could
in
be
2025, May
different
11th,
date,
or,
yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
That's
could
what.
be. Then we wouldn't have to come back, and it would be whenever they decide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds good to me. So I got a motion second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next up, item number 6, resubmit the sale and purchase agreement for 5219 Miller Bayou Drive from Pasco County to the city of Port Richey. Pass it to Mr. Copper for introduction.
Pasco County purchased property 5219 Miller Bayou Drive, and using FEMA dollars, structure was demolished due to extensive flood damage. Pasco County has sent a purchase agreement to the city to buy the property for $10. So they would have to follow the guidelines of the warranty deed, essentially leaving the property as green space. The council approved this agreement at September 9th, 2023 meeting. Pasco County had to make changes to the agreement, which is now presented for signature and resubmission. The document will still have to be submitted to Pasco County Board of County Commission for approval.
I have a real quick question. Leaving it green space, does that allow for community garden as they're trying to do?
Yes, it does. See exhibit.
That's you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We're all looking.
That's okay. That's okay. That's all right.
We got Dave's legal opinion. We didn't get yours.
Yeah, that's true. We got Dave's legal opinion, therefore we don't need you anymore, Nancy.
In Exhibit B, on page 45 of the thing, it indicates that compatible uses shall be dedicated and maintained in perpetuality as open space for conservation of natural floodplain functions. Such uses may include parks for outdoor recreational activities, wetlands management, nature preserves, cultivation, which could be deemed to be community gardens, and that's my.
We could put goats there.
Huh?
We could put goats there grazing.
Yes, although I think pigs are not allowed.
Well, they don't graze.
Camping, which, we got an RV site going, so we really don't need camping there. But,
That's interesting that that's in there. Yeah.
yeah. But it appears that we do have the ability to keep that community garden, if that's the theme that's going forward there. So.
There's no new structures improvements, and from what I recall from the discussion with the CAC is that they would want to put like sheds or something up for equipment and stuff.
It also indicated, I think, sheds and those kinds of things would be allowed.
Bathrooms too, I think,
if it was open sides and there was some.
Well, open sites doesn't secure the tools. Yeah, I'm at 45.
Page 45.
Yeah.
There would be limits on the structures.
What I had with this thing is it's going to require inspection and monitoring. So we're going to have to keep it. We're going to have to create an event in our calendar because there's going to be report required back to that agency, that FEMA agency. So somebody needs to be tagged with that additional duty going forward, so that we don't drop the thing and then the property reverts back. So, which I think they just look at it to see that you're in compliance with this set use.
I think definitely we need to go forward with this. Absolutely. I just regarding the green space, it says a public facility that is open on all sides and functionally related to a designated open space or recreational use. So that doesn't allow for sheds for the tools for the gardens. So they would have to bring their own tools. They can't be a lot shed. Public restroom, we could put a public restroom on there. Is that correct?
That's what it says, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Motion to approve the resubmission and sale purchase agreement for 5219 Miller Bayou Drive from Pasco County to the city of Port Richey.
Second.
Motion second. Further discussion? Anyone from the public like to speak? See no hands up put to vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next up is item number 7, approval of engineering for the US 19 Grand Boulevard Golf Cart Crossing. I'll pass that to Mr. Copper for introduction.
In August 2023, the city provided a traffic study and a request letter to the Florida Department of Transportation to allow golf carts to cross the Grand Boulevard in US 19. FDOT responded that all alterations would have to be made to the intersection so the golf carts could drive through safely. Staff approached through the city, including engineering companies, to provide proposals for intersection design. Tonight, the city council will discuss and consider pushing the staff recommendation of Burns McDonald Engineering to the board to design this project. To add to that, we also received information from Port Richey on the engineer that they use. I believe that's intersection 4, right? Third. No. Port Richey. I believe it's in here. I just want you to be aware that he did reach out to them. There was a council member that asked if he had reached out to them. The other thing I want to bring up is that, Silent Night, we did have a meeting with FDOT on some of the changes that we could make that are less construction heavy. And so that probably will be positive for the end cost of construction. But getting there, we're still going to have to do the design and permitting, do any work in that area. I don't know if Sally, you have any other information you want to impart on that?
No, it was FDC that was used by Newport Richey, and that quote is in here. So it was 3 that we were required, and that was the 3rd one. Gotcha. So it was Florida Design Consultants. No, I got nothing else to add.
This is I'll make a comment here. This, $50,000, but I can tell you that this is something the community really wants. I think the community really use that crossing there. I think it's an investment in the city in a positive way. So I have no reservations to move forward on this. The only thing I was going to comment on is you guys got it coming out of Pasco Contingency Fund. We do have, and I don't know if this is something that could fall under ARPA, but if we need to spend that ARPA money, that'd be something we can take it out of there.
We're already 15 grand over on our committee.
We're committed, right? But it's
Over. So we can circle back. I got issues with this bid. I did a side-by-side comparison against each of these vendors. More importantly, what was included in each and what was omitted in each. So we don't have an apples-to-apples comparison. Thank you, sir. Although Burns and McDonald may appear to be the lowest, they've omitted all the permitting fees. When I just added them off of the line items here, it pushes them up to the second highest. There's other items in here. If we go down the list and look at permits, for example, they got a line item in the
What page you on? Excuse me, I'm sorry, Dave. What page are you on?
I'm on the page of the analysis that I did myself.
Oh.
So you guys don't have this.
Thank you.
Not a problem. Not a problem. So what I tried to do is I tried to lay these things out as any person that's reviewing this and trying to understand what's in, what's not. And the potential is, in the Burns and McCormick, none of the permits were included. And this FDOT drainage that was included in the coastal plan of 5300 There was nothing indicated in Florida Design, so that's the first item. And then it talked about construction phase services. There was construction plans. It was really no detail on any of this. I think it begs the question, we need to go back and ask them a few more questions. Relative to the subconsultant services, topographical surveys range from 7,200 to 9,000. And the Burns and McCormick included, but there should be a topographical survey that we might be able to borrow from FDOT, for example. If that,
Yes. We asked for that.
Yes. Were you able to get it?
They indicated they couldn't find that, right?
Okay. Also, in the subcontractors, in the Florida Design, for some reason, they got traffic signal modifications of 17.5. I don't know why they would modify the traffic signals. None of the other projects or the consultants had a line item in there for traffic signal modifications. That's a pretty significant amount. That's almost 20% of their total bid. So going into this, I'm looking at items that don't seem consistent from vendor to vendor, right? I think we need to gather some additional information, and maybe try to get additional detail lines for the Burns and the Florida Design. Also, I got a question here about Newport Richey. They should have estimates for all of these as well. We should be able to share, maybe get some information on that for price comparisons. I already spoke about the traffic signal, detailed construction plans. Really isn't reflected in here, but I'm assuming we get those at the end. And then the FDOT drainage. Why is it missing in the one, and none of the estimates for permits are included in the Burns and McDonald? So that's my concern. I don't think this is ready for prime time. I agree with the mayor. I think this is probably one of the most important projects that this city needs to address, but I don't think we need to be moving forward with something that isn't ready for prime time. I think there's some questions that we can get asked and answered, and then circle back and bring it back to this forum to address it. So, and I'm willing to share this. I mean, so the Sunshine Law won't let me share it ahead of time.
So, what was the biggest gap in the cost analysis you did? Was it the permit fees being left off?
Well, specifically, the Burns and McDonald says is these are items that are reflected by or supposed to us, and it's not reflected in there. And I think it's I can tell you
because I see where the
furnish. Okay, it'd be page 72. Right at the top, 2.7, furnish approvals and permits from all governmental authorities having jurisdiction over the project. If we go back to section 2, responsibilities of client, that's us. So, and there again, I don't know what the criteria was that went forward and indicated that we actually picked up the phone and called these folks. So maybe we didn't have a detailed list of things. And then they were at their own trying to figure out, well, this is what you're going to need, and everybody took a different route. So this is where we're at.
So this is a good call out. When we submit out a bid, we not say we want the engineering and all permitting fees. They have the autonomy to come back and pick and choose what they put in that. Seems like that would be permitting is a bare minimum part of the process. I don't know why they would exclude that and put it on us, unless they still want to call it out.
So I think, first off, the process we use is not the best process to achieve the best results at the end. Most cities either have an engineering department or they have an engineering company that they go to write these type of specifications for a scope of services. we don't have any engineers on board. Again, it's just the way that we've been doing business here is we don't have an engineer that we can go to and say we need to scope this out. I think because of that, you're absolutely right. You get, the last one we received, the more expensive one, has the traffic light. And I sat there when I saw that and said, well, why would they think that? Well, they're covering themselves, right? It may or may not be there, but if you do it, here's what the cost is going to be. I don't know, in talking with, for instance, the FDOT representative, he didn't seem to think, if I recall right, there was going to be any signalization work required in there. I mean, I don't know why that came to mind when I reviewed this. And so I was like, it is strange that they're thinking. Now, what they did in other cities may have resulted in that. And so they're just because they've done it before, they're being cautious and saying this is, something that we think. But the normal procedure in this is you would have an engineer write the scope as to what we're getting for the bid. That's not what we've done in the past. That's not what we're doing here. Again, I think we look at the way that we're doing it in a cost-effective manner, but that doesn't necessarily yield a result that may be cost-effective. And again, that's something in terms of policy improvement we need to do here. So there's no doubt I saw that as well, that there's differing things which could result in some ways more cost to what the low bid would be, but it could also be that some of the other things really aren't necessary, like a drainage plan, because under what was, I believe, the preliminary plan where there's more extensive work to be done in the intersection, that may have been warranted. But again, what FDOT is telling us is we have to take one curb, move it over 6 to 10 feet, put pavement down, wipe out the lines, and put new lines to accommodate the new lanes. So different engineering firms are going to give you different things led to their own devices.
One of the other things I noted that since AIRS is the guys working on our waterfront district, why weren't they given the opportunity to put something in here as well? And back to the comment about the traffic signal, if you subtract that from the Florida design amount, now all of these are about on par, about 65 grand. So it's pick or choose. So I don't
honestly, a traffic signal change is probably needed there, because when you go across Grand, the people coming out of it's like you're playing chicken.
A left turn.
Who's going to go straight and who's going to go left? So I'm not. I don't know any details, but I would be happy if they put an arrow and they change the signal there.
Exactly.
Especially if you're going to allow golf carts to cross it.
But the point is this is a design. This is somebody saying, yes, you're going to need a traffic signal there. Okay, I said it, you said it, we agree on it. The point is they've thrown in here a line item that I think can be pulled out, because in the construction bid, it will have those adjustments in there, is my thought, right?
I don't know. I don't know.
You don't pay for the traffic light in the design, you pay for it in the construction side, right?
Well, what I think that is referring to, though, is a study on the timing, because whenever you're going to be dealing with the state on changing the timing on their roads, you have to do a warranting study. So you have to look at traffic volumes, you have to look at the turn, what the average time of turn is. I mean, all these things have to be presented to them. That ultimately they'll say, yes, we agree with this. We'll adjust the timing on our roadway.
And wouldn't it be better if the bid was more than we expected, and we don't need a light, so then we don't pay it? Because once you do a bid without the light, and then you have to add it, you're adding time onto construction, and there's a lot.
Perfect example. I think we need to find out what this means. Is it the design, or is it the light, or I think it's just a design saying, like Matt indicated, it may be the traffic study relative to that. And if that's going to be required in each case, in their conversation with FDOT, maybe there's ways to work around some of that, or maybe FDOT's got money to be able to address that as well. I don't know. And there again, they've had a conversation. I don't.
Well, if you back the light out and you add the permit fees, you said they're all three
about
around
the same.
60-some thousand.
Yeah, they're all about the same. I added the permits and the one that didn't have them. I subtracted the traffic signal mods in the one that had it, and they're the only one that did have it. It came out 65,580, 64,200, and 64,000.
Yeah. Well, so that being said, if we went with the recommendation here that doesn't have those things, we would assume we would be paying that same cost of permitting. That should be, there should be no markup necessarily on that, right? Permits and permits.
Well, no markup is at 15%. They said.
Because
they use a subcontractor to support.
Did you figure that in when you had the permits in?
Yeah, I had.
So it's still 60 something?
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, it sounds like that. I mean, we can go back and get clarification on this, but it sounds like they're all coming in about the same, let's say 65,000 or whatever. And then depending on if we need that lighting thing, well, that's spend another 15, 20 or whatever that comes out to. So what, other than delaying it longer to get some clarification, what's the goal?
So I just want to make sure. So when you're saying that permitting is not included in the Burns McDonald, are you talking about the other permitting or just the FDOT permitting?
Any permit.
It does say permits are responsibility.
I didn't see any permits included in the Burns.
Yeah, on page 74, I think it is.
The scope of services, Burns and McDonald, page 71, under scope of services, task 1.3, Florida Department
application
permitting. Yeah,
it's the application.
Right.
They're applying for the permit. If you look at page 74, it does say that
we're going to have to pay the fees.
Correct. We'd have to pay the fees regardless of any of those.
Right, and they've got them. And the rest of them have permit fees included.
So what page is the next one?
Okay. Just on McDonald, when the permit fees will be paid by the client on 4.8.
Fees to be paid.
Page
86, I believe. Item D. There's about 4 different. You even got to pay a permit fee for an exemption, which is odd. And then FDOT permitting and Swift Mud permit exemption. And that's another thing too. You would think they'd have like to like all across the board, but then there was nothing included for drainage in the Florida design. And then the cost, you'd think the permit would be the same, and there again, I don't know how the permits are calculated, but you expect them to be in the ballpark. But and there again, maybe they're using a third party to apply the permit, and they're charging that 15% fee on top of it. So 15% on a $6,000 fee, I can see where you get $7,600.
Can I make a note that AIRS was contacted? Pretty much all our approved engineer list was contacted. These were the only 3 that I received to present this, and I didn't go any further than the 3. But
matter of fact, we waited on that third one for a couple weeks, actually.
Right.
Thanks for that, Sal.
So you'd think that AIRS would respond since we're up there on the hook.
Well, and also to add, if on page 65, the email that I sent to all our approved engineers, this conceptual actually came from FDOT, and every engineer basically went by this information that FDOT provided, and each of them came up with their proposal based on this FDOT drawing for the designated turn lanes that had to be done and for the removal of the easement on the west side. So each of them came to this thinking of what they're going to bring to the table as far as what needs to be done.
Exactly. But the point, when you lay them all out, some of them had things that others didn't. And all I was trying to do is make them look alike.
Well, they're different companies, so they might not look alike.
Well, that's true, but it's ultimately at the end of the day, we're trying to get something, a design that we can therefore go forward and bid, right? And in this case, they've let us know that their bid includes permits, other ones didn't.
But you said if you add them into the ones that didn't, they're all about the same within 1,000. So it doesn't make a difference, right? So
That's what are you looking
so
for
what's the point?
here?
I would like to know what is the next step after we approve this? What's the next step?
That they do the engineering.
Okay.
We contract them.
And we start the
choose
process.
one.
Yeah, we start the process. This
This would you be choosing one, and then the contract would be drawn. Assuming that goes fine, they'll do the work, they'll bring it back, and then you guys can do the next step in the construction.
So it doesn't sound like, I mean, you point out great things, and I hope in the future that when we put out the bid, we could somehow get that where everybody's
Analysis.
apples to apples comparison. That would be
Right.
very helpful. As a matter of fact, I even make the point that on the summary here, obviously we had to go through each one of the, you guys recommended the lowest bid, but it'd be nice to see, here's the bids that came back, $1, $2, $3. We chose the $1 as opposed to trying to dig that information out. On the second one, I had to actually add up all the fees to get the total because they didn't even total their thing. So all that aside, it sounds like they're all pretty much around the same. So with the suggested one, obviously it's more of an a la carte type thing. So if we have to add on permitting fees, we pay those. If we have to add on the lights, we're right back to the top bid anyway. So I would make a recommendation. We go ahead and move forward with recommendation of staff.
I honestly don't like that idea. I think what we need to do is get a commitment what the fees are from these companies as opposed to assuming. We're trying to get the best what we can for the money, and if we're just going to assume, and then shame on us when that this increases tremendously, and it'll be egg in our face.
Yeah. Well, that being said, we can also go with the highest dollar that includes everything as well. Like I said, it sounds like to me it's pick one. You agree or
No, let's come back.
come back with it? Okay. Well, then motion to table then. You guys want to do that?
Make a motion to table this to do our homework.
Motion second for discussion. Anyone public like to speak? You don't have to put the vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried and tabled. Next up. Item number 8, adding Structural Engineering and Inspections, Inc., SEI, to the approved engineer list for 2023-2024. I pass it to Mr. Coppell for introduction.
SEI submitted their statement of qualifications so they can be added to the City of Port Richey approved engineer list for the 2023-2024 year. You want to add anything?
Actually, we want to add them to our approved engineer list due to their qualifications for structural engineering. One of our points of concern is the Braxton Park restroom, and then obviously moving forward, there's going to be other facilities that we're going to need services like this. This will just help us provide with another quote and another comparison, so we can bring that to council.
Motion or discussion?
To approve structural engineering inspection engineers list.
Motion second.
Motion second. Further discussion? Anyone public like to speak? So you don't have to put the vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next up, item number 9, City of Port Richey sponsorship policy. I'll pass it to Mr. Coppell for introduction.
Yes. So it's my understanding that during the last budget process, council discussed, had a lengthy or somewhat lengthy discussion on the fireworks. And one of the things that came out of that was council wished the desired staff to go out and seek sponsorships to help pay for more elaborate or even pay for some of what the city's going to be doing going forward. Staff at the time felt that the city needed to have a policy that would clearly call out what we would allow in terms of sponsorship and how that process would be approved or the sponsorship would be approved, so we could share that with people so they know the expectations of what we can do for them if they give us a certain amount of money. We looked at that from a number of different perspectives. I reviewed a number of different policies from other cities that do a pretty good job of writing a policy, and came up ultimately with the one that's in front of you. I worked with the city attorney to clean it up and make sure that it addressed, protected the legal interests of the city going forward, and again provided guidance for staff as well as guidance for anybody wishing to sponsor any of our programs going forward.
Open for motion or discussion.
So tonight, all we're looking for is input. As I said, I'd like to give you things in advance before you vote on them.
Oh, is this not for action?
Yeah,
I'm
this
sorry.
is not for
Okay.
action tonight. This is just one. Yeah, just to give you time to start looking at it. If you have any questions or concerns, to let me know, or if you have any tonight, any questions on this. Again, I think, going back to our earlier discussion about, the proclamations and recognitions, you have to put yourself in a position for that sponsorship request that may not fit with the goals of the city. And if you don't have a policy, you may not be in the best position to combat that going down the road, put yourself in an awkward position. And so I think this gives us, a lot of ability to make that decision. Council has a lot of ability to make that decision. This is, within what we believe, aligns with what our missions are and our beliefs are. It also goes through and provides the approval process. So, at certain levels, it can be allowed or accepted by a department director for that program. At another level, it's the department director and the city manager, finance director. Another level, it's the council, city manager. So at a higher level, which is, I think, something that I want you to look at and think about if those are too generous and you think they should be lower, so you have more input on those. Please, again, there's no pride of authorship here. If you want to make any changes, please, because as I always say with policies and ordinances, they outlive us. And so you want to make sure that you have something that represents you and represents the city, not represents Matt Koppler, the city manager.
So the question I have, and maybe will be addressed to our city attorney. Is this in the same ballpark as other cities that the firm represents?
I honestly did not do the legwork on this. Mr. Popper did. So I can't answer that. I'm happy to look into that and see what other cities that my firm deals with have done if they've done something like this. I did not go that direction, which I normally do because Mr. Popper took the lead on it.
And so from my perspective, this is probably a little bit more elaborate than a number of communities in the state of Florida. Again, I don't have the list that I looked at here in front of me. But again, there's some that I think do a really good job on the promotional part of it, where they're getting out there and trying to drive that, but they don't have a lot of policy behind it in terms of how it's approved. It's here or there it gets approved. So this I think is much more elaborate, much more detailed than a lot. There's some that's even more so. This ends up kind of in between what I've seen across the United States.
I don't see much of a problem with it, but I'm just curious, the comparison to others, we in the ballpark and something that will benefit us.
I think you approved all levels except for the very first level, right? 5,000 or less, I think is what it was.
Yeah, I think I'm in the chain of approval, and even in the smallest one, I'm probably going to be in the chain.
I'm assuming there's tracking system. I guess the only reason I ask is that you wouldn't want it to come and you not be aware of it and it not end up in the appropriate account or where it should be. So I didn't know if that was something that is an issue.
Yeah, I don't have any problem with this. Again, I think I'm comfortable with the dollar amounts that are in there. But again, you have the ultimate say in that. And if you want more control, let's just lower everything down and no problem whatsoever. I think the vast majority of ours are going to fall probably more in the range of what I'm approving than what you would be approving. But again, I think, with more money is more expectation, and I think that's something that you need to review. Although not, I don't think totally in this. I think there should be some type of reporting that we do with you on this on a regular basis. I don't know if it's quarterly or yearly or whatever that's going to be, just so you're aware of what's going on as well, what the sponsorships are, because what I don't necessarily want is, and this happened someplace to me where I walked into one of our senior centers and there's all these banners all over, and it's like, where did those come from? And not that they necessarily created issues, but created a lot of questions, and I would prefer not to have to answer those questions. I'd rather you already be aware of what's going on. So I think there's a little bit of work on that side that didn't necessarily need to be in the policy, but I think we just need to make it our policy to keep you informed of that.
Thank you.
So I guess we put this on the next agenda to guys vote on that.
Yep. Again, if you have any changes or any questions, just let me know and I'll get an answer out for that.
Any further discussion? Anyone? Public comment? Seeing none, we'll move on to item number 10, surplus of impounded vehicles. I'll pass it to Mr. Copeland for introduction.
This request is for the surplus of 8 impounded vehicles that have been stored in the impound lot of the police department for 90 days or more. The registered owners were sent notifications via registered mail and have not responded to retrieve their vehicles. Port Richey Police Department will send these vehicles to the Tampa Bay Machinery Auction, as is our standard practice. The auction, these will then be, or the firm will use these vehicles using their standard process.
Motion to approve the surplus of impounded vehicles.
Second.
Motion second for discussion.
Yes. Do we keep track of all the costs? I know with this 8 vehicles, there's a max of 1,575, so that's about 12.5 thousand. Do we keep track of what we get back, and are we to the positive or the negative on these things? Because there's transportation costs, and ultimately, in other words, where I'm going with this, is there another way that we could do this, that we could keep more of the funds in our pocket?
Chief, you have anything?
Yes, we do keep track of it, and we share it with our finance director, and we are on the positive side when it comes to the vehicle impounds.
So that's in a report somewhere?
Yes.
Okay. Do you want that? I can, yeah, sure. But I know that I'm sure there's a transporter that comes and takes these vehicles that are $400 to $500 a pop. That's $5,000, $4 to $5,000 right there coming off the top. Now, granted, it's storage. It's an item of 12.5 that we didn't really incur any cost on that. It's just sitting out back. So essentially that gets reversed, right? That's a non-monetary transaction at that point. So essentially whatever we clear after we paid the transporter and the auction fees, that's now, I'd just like to see where we're at.
Thanks. Anyone else? Anyone public like to speak? So you don't have to put a vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Last item, number 11, Florida Boating Improvement Program, Boating and Waterways Section, City of Port Richey Delegation of Signatory Authority. Pass it to Mr. Copper for introduction.
Staff is in the process of submitting an application to FBIP requesting funding for the replacement of Nick's Park Boat Ramp and Dock. The delegation of signature authority letter is a required document. And I see what you're saying right there. I don't have a good answer, and our person is not here to answer that.
Okay.
So I would get the answer for what those numbers are, but I guess regardless of whether it's 50% or 15%, it's less money that we would have to pay if we got it. So I'll get clarification on that.
Well, you're just asking for being able to sign, so.
Motion to approve Florida Boating Improvement Program Boating and Waterways Section.
Second that.
The motion is second. Further discussion? Anyone public comment? See no hands, I'll put it to vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And last is the discussion of old business. Any discussions around old business?
Can we get, when we go to the status, let's look at the first one, the Sunshade at Waterfront Park. There's been a grant applied. Can we get, maybe some dates in there that when it's expected, the status? Olsner's completed. Yep, that's good.
That'll come off, I guess, right, for the next meeting.
Right. Cody River Landing bid packet, that's supposed to go out at the middle of next month. So that's for the water and the sidewalks and roads and lighting and all that. This whole package.
Yeah, opened next month. It's already out for solicitation.
Cool.
So
yes. Okay.
And just to let you know, originally that was going to be this week. If I'm not mistaken. There were some requests for some addendums that had to be done, and because of the lateness in the process, we extended their bid so they could, take in what the new information was and bid for that.
Next part, ramp fee allowance, that's still under discussion to see if, I thought we did have something on that we could charge.
Yeah.
And we'd have to differentiate between resident, non-resident, and that's ongoing.
Yeah, that's in my hands to come up with a plan for you guys.
The Miller Bayou, we talked about that. That looks like it's completion. Blue Point, 2 items there. Utility. We need to get somebody to establish as a point of contact for our 100th anniversary.
Yeah, I brought this up last time. We need to get this committee. I know we talked about
somebody needs to get picked in the staff to be able to be the point of contact, right?
I think you're making me a part of the committee, so I think that's been established.
All right, that's been
not necessarily the chair. But.
All right. So does that need to be pulled off, or just we keep it on there to keep it going?
We need to draft a resolution to put the ad hoc committee together, so I'd leave it on there so we don't forget to stay on.
When do we anticipate having that?
Soon.
Okay.
I'll try to get it for the next meeting.
Right.
If Mr. Coupler is ready to put it on the agenda.
He looks ready to me.
And did we want to look at adding those benches on there or follow up on that kind of thing? Add that on there as well. We discussed that earlier. Right?
Yeah. What was the update on the benches? Because we did ask about that.
I got to follow up with the director and see what the status of that is.
Are they being ordered or what?
I got to follow up with him. I don't know. I would assume they were being ordered. I don't know. He doesn't have them right now, so I have to follow up with him to find out.
But the follow up, I guess, is see if he's ordered them or not. I guess they were moved forward to replace them. I guess
he was aware of that.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe stick that on there. Benches at Waterfront Park, so keep track of that.
And then I guess this also leads into the ARPA schedule at the back, where you're going to do that as well, or because I got issues on that too.
Before we move on to that, on the Wilkins Street and Bay Boulevard light on pole, we talked about last meeting. This sounds like, so they're going to move that light now? Or?
No. So I did some research and realized that the old pole on that corner had a light, and when they replaced the pole,
They
they didn't put the light back. So I'm following up with them. They're supposed to be. I've been waiting for about a week now for that response to see if they're going to put the light back. So I'm like, well, can I just have my light back so that way it solves everyone's problem?
Was the light out, I guess, or because it was
It
brought up?
It was probably out, and when they would replace the pole, they just didn't,
That's-
they didn't put it back in there. So and
Gotcha.
I found an older picture on Google Maps. They showed the older pole, and then I have one with the newer pole without the light.
nice.
So I'm like, I just want the light back. So hopefully they'll replace it.
For the light.
That's the thing. Why I'm hoping they won't, because it was originally there. So why would they want to recharge us?
No, I mean, we pay for these street lights, right?
Yes.
So if it was there, assumption is we were paying for it.
Yeah.
Now it's not.
Right.
Has they removed it from our bill?
I'd have to follow up with that. With
Do they line item all those lights? I
They
guess.
charge us for the usage of it. So it's not like they
Yeah,
they
if it's
charge.
not on, it doesn't get charged.
Once they've been paid for, then it just drops to the usage or whatever. I guess.
Okay.
I had a question just about the refuse and garbage pickup. It says awaiting council direction. I just wanted to know.
So that was a thing I'd brought up. Newport Richey actually is going through that. They're going to provide garbage services, one contract, one carrier, and so I brought that up as something that we should look at. And so at the time, we were kind of waiting to see how it turned out for them, and then we could.
Because there was discussion in Newport Richey and there was problems. So we didn't want to inherit problems. So we were waiting for their resolution, and I don't think they've resolved it yet.
Yeah,
I think it was.
Yeah, I think it's done now. Yeah, it. What did they end up doing? Did you look at that?
No. It's what I met with their manager last week, and she had said that had all been passed and they're moving forward.
So is that, speaking of that, since that's happened, is that something we look at, see if it's advantageous or
I
not?
don't think so.
So I'm aware of the Newport Richey thing just because of Facebook groups and stuff. I think that there should be multiple so that people have the option, because some people have different household income.
Sure.
Maybe they might not be able to afford a certain type of business that provides a service. Maybe.
Yeah, the idea behind having the one carrier, there's a lot of benefits to it. Obviously, you don't have multiple trucks on different days tearing up your roads, right? It does alleviate your choice. So say you're with J.D. Parker and the city contracts with somebody else, Republic. Well, then, you've had a relationship. Now you got to use this other one. I think they all pretty much charge the same. When I brought this up, the idea was we were being asked to raise the millage rate to handle our brush pickup, and so I was brainstorming if we could maybe provide garbage and actually lower costs, and even if we lower the cost, because if we get one carrier, he wants the whole area. The idea would he would contract at a lower rate than what we'd be paying individually if we contract ourselves, and then based on that savings, if we was to also put in that contract that they would handle the pickup of brush on certain days, that it would be a wash. We wouldn't have to increase costs to cover that brush pickup service. It would all be inclusive in the garbage thing. Now, there's a lot of obviously issues behind that, how you bill it and all these different things, but that was the thought process. Is if it was a way to not have to raise taxes to continue providing a service that everybody loves, and this was a possible way to solve that.
Maybe we could.
I heard some of the anomalies with Newport Richey that they found, like if a person multiple parcels, they were wanting to charge by the parcel, but in fact there's only one residence there. They were charging them 3 times because they had 3 parcels that were all in one. So there was some anomalies they needed to work out. I don't know how that ever got addressed, but I heard that was one of the issues.
One of the things, many of us have moved to Port Richey for multiple reasons, but one is that there's no HOA. This screams HOA to me, and people don't have a choice. So I since it all costs the same, we now have a new piece of equipment that will also help with the brush. Correct, Tom?
If
So
we
that
buy the
helps.
attachment, I guess, true.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a permanent solution as opposed to an ongoing solution.
Yeah.
You know, an ongoing thing. And, like their garbage. You know, they have certain companies that they've been with, and they do. They like their garbage companies. I mean, you know, that I've been with the same one for 36 years. I don't want to change. And so my next door neighbor has got a different one, my good friend, and she likes that one. So I think it was going to start to have some animosity towards us for making them pick a thing.
Yeah,
Newport Richie's doing it. That's great. Let's. We want to readjust. You'll look at this in a year and see how they're doing with it. We can look at it again. I think we should just let it sit for right now.
Yeah. No, and I, like I said, the original, well, they save money. So if we contract it, let's say you're paying, you know, $50 a quarter, and we contract it, it goes down to $35 a quarter. People save $15 a quarter. That's a good thing. You don't get to choose your garbage guy, but you're paying less. So that was the original thought. Well, then the reason I brought it up when I did is also we were looking at raising the millage rate. So in that contracting process, if we could make it paying the same as we would if we contracted, because we do it individually, but we get our garbage pickup, we don't have to raise millage rate. That was an incentive to look at it, right? Mm-hmm. Knowing what we know now with Newport Richie, there's a question. I think it's not saving any money at all. So at that point, why do it? Other than the fact that there is a benefit to our infrastructure. We save the traffic on the roads and stuff like that. So that would be one thing. It would be a positive, even if the costs stayed the same. But we definitely wouldn't want to do anything where it would raise costs. If it would lower costs, I think it'd be worth looking at just to see. Maybe there's some savings there, but it didn't look like Newport Richie accomplished that. So I agree. Let's look at how that pans out over the next 6 months to a year and revisit it. If you want to take that off for now, we can do that.
Thank you for the explanation.
Yeah, no problem. Dave, you have something you want to talk about?
If I look at the projected ARPA funds, and this is where I was going before, we've got essentially 1.451 mil in ARPA to spend. Spent or committed to date, it appears about 364. But if I look at a couple line items, the mill and overlay, there was a line item for $400K. What did that actually come in at? Did you guys have a discussion last time on that?
So the paving project's $527,000.
Right.
In the council packet, we explained that we are actually reducing because previously that line item would have been $500,000. So we are removing $100,000 from there because on the water main project, Cody River Landing.
Right, the 885 versus 631.
Yeah, the impact fees we don't feel is the right place to use all the money from for that. So we wanted to increase that number. So we just took the $100,000 from one and gave it to the other, which made more sense from Marcy.
Okay, so it really isn't 631 for the water main, or we're projecting 885 though, right?
Well, the total part for the water main is 885. Right. And so 631, is that the right number, or is that?
That's the ARPA portion.
Yes.
So we got a gap of 254,000, which will come from impact fees.
Yeah.
From impact fees, but we're going to charge the businesses there for that because we're putting in a new water main.
What's the money that we already received?
We're expanding it.
Yeah. Okay. Making it larger.
You said you were overspent. It's a dollar. What were you? You said the ARPA was showing overspent.
No, we've got $1,451,000 in ARPA.
Right, and it was
When
projected costs.
When I move the 400 over to the final column and the 631 to the final column, that looks like it's about 1466, and we got 1451. So that's your 15K, and then this gap between the 885 that she's stating that's coming from impact fees, it's another fund. So that's how they're covering the gap.
And there's a couple things on here, and I had a conversation with Matt on, obviously, the waterfront development is kind of fluid with, we were looking at comprehensive land use plan to see this developer, what they end up doing, and then, are these water main improvements, are they going to be enough? I think there's some variables, the limestone pier, is that something we're going to continue to do? So when I brought up about the golf cart thing, I think because ARPA has a finite end date at the end of this year, has to be spent, I think that, it's great to have this plan here, but if there's something that ARPA can be expensed with, I say we whittle that down, because Penny for Pasco can pick up, it's either or. You can do these things several different ways, but ARPA is finite. Whereas Penny for Pasco can sit out there until oblivion. We don't spend it, right? So I think we need to start anything we can put to ARPA. Let's get that down to zero, and then then we take it out Penny for Pasco to cover it. I want to make sure that we get that entire 1.5 spent.
Coastal Designs tagged $175K for the design. We've already, I guess, paid them $104,000. Where does that stand? That thing's been floating out there for a year. Have we had any conversation with them to see how they are?
So we're actually in a little bit of a holding pattern, because we wanted to make sure, as part of the goal setting, that's still a project you wanted to move forward with. Because we're at a point where they could spend, if we're going forward, we need to spend money. If you don't want to go forward with that, then we can stop it at this point and try to figure out what it is you want to do. Because I think in the end, if you want to go forward with the project, you do the work. But if you don't, then you need to do something with the pier that's there. I mean, it's not like leave the pier there, don't spend money.
Yeah, I think either way, it gets tore out.
Money. Right.
Right.
So we definitely tear it out.
So we don't have any funds available for this, and this is one of those things I wanted to send to Pasco, is say, is there any way we can kind of look at that and design that whole area at the same time? I'll start shooting an email.
So I mean, I think we're at a point where I wanted to have council talk about that, because you haven't talked about that since I've been here. We have different council. I want to make sure we're still moving forward. If not, we should probably pull back on that project and figure out what we need to do.
So that'd be on obviously Tuesday's conversation. Right?
And we can pull back, is from what you're understanding? I thought they were going to throw permits in there in the anticipation of getting it done and all that.
I don't, because one of the issues that we have with this is the survey of the property. So getting that survey, we found out that there are some encumbrances on our property. And so we need to get those cleared with the owner of the property. And so doing that, we need our engineering firm to go out there and stake it out. Well, that was not considered a part of the original scope. So there's going to be, a change order there. There's, I think the parking issue was another thing that probably wasn't a part of the original scope. And now to move forward with that issue, there's going to be a change order. And so before we start spending more money, I wanted to make sure that we're all on the same page and we're moving forward with that, or we're not. Because if we're not moving forward, we can kind of step back from the additional money and figure out what needs to happen. But again, there isn't, at least I don't believe there isn't a solution at the end of the day that the pier that's standing there now is still there. I mean, it's either we replace it or we're all happy, or we have to remove it, because it's becoming
If I recall correctly, we have to remove it irregardless. That's why that's why we went that 175, because that takes care of
demo,
that.
whether we replace it or not,
Right.
happens.
That is in that demolition, because it is a hazard and it's not structurally sound
Yep.
or anything. So that's why we went with that, and then we were going to readdress it in the future, whether or not we do it or not.
So the 175 includes the demolition and removal of that old pier?
Yes.
I think so.
I don't seem
Well,
to think it
I
did.
think it does, but as a step towards a design of a new pier as well. If I'm not mistaken, the design was for everything or just removal?
I thought it was just design.
It's for the design, and it's not going, that money is not including, this is just coastal engineering is doing the design of the pier, and would include the permits for the demolition, not the actual physical work.
Right. Yeah.
That would be it. That would be
This is just the design.
Right.
The design is for the removal and
all of that
replacement.
as a package for that bid packet when we go out to construction. That the demolition would be part of it. The discussion we've had in the past was, instead of doing the construction part, why don't we just, to consider just doing the demo, remove everything, and then table it for another time. And then that way you would have the design for the pier, but, not doing it at this point in time. But this was something that the city manager wanted to bring up for the goal setting and see what the council wants to do to move forward.
Because right now you don't have a project beyond a designed project. I mean, there isn't any money that's been pointed out saying this is what we're going to spend to replace it. So we need to think about that. If you're still okay with designing something that you're not going to build in the near future.
I think the actual cost was like $300,000. I think is the number they threw out to build it. Built kind of plain Jane.
The existing site's a historical structure. The original US 19, right? If we pull the boards, the decking off of there and leave those structures, is that something that could be done as a structure?
From my understanding, all the pilings in the water, those are the hazards. To leave them in there. Is that right, Mike?
No matter of fact, if you pulled all the decking stuff off, it would be more hazardous because you might not see that it's a pier there and you run into a concrete piling, right?
The problem not so much is the decking, of course, that's a problem, but the problem was the pilings in the water.
Yeah. They weren't structurally sound to build on.
Right. That's what I remember.
Well, they didn't.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
They didn't give an opinion on whether they could be built. They only that the way it was attached wasn't.
Well, they could not conclude whether it was safe or not, and so they err on the side of caution, saying that we're not going to say you can build on this, so that it comes out. That's what.
But because this is a historical structure, does it have any significance? I don't know. I'm just. In other words, is there an option to remove the top and leave the historical structure in place? I don't know.
The concrete was actually tested underneath. That's why when you look at the pier now, they have several segments that the boards were removed. Core testing was done. That's the problem right there. It's the existing concrete that's completely brittle and can't be used. This is why we got to take the entire structure out.
That's fine.
So that's where we're at.
Yeah. So we can talk about it on Tuesday.
Yeah. Good plan.
Anything else? Look for a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Second, all in favor, say by saying aye. Aye. We adjourn.